Good morning, San Francisco. Welcome to Free Talk SF, the show about freedom, empathy, and independence for everyone in San Francisco. My name is Steven Zeiler. You are joining me today on October 1st, 2015. You may be watching this on YouTube or tuning in on 88.1 K Gay, the most recent liberty-oriented radio station in San Francisco. Welcome. It is a fine day here in Haight-Ashbury. Actually, it looks like a foggy day, possibly rainy day. It was raining all day yesterday, but isn't it great to be alive and celebrating freedom and independence in San Francisco? Today I want to talk to you about patents. Patents are an extremely divisive issue here, especially in Silicon Valley, and a traditional instrument of oppression and class warfare used by certain groups to prevent others from creating wealth. So, what are a patent? A patent is a government-granted monopoly to produce a given thing and sell it. So, the traditional story goes, some guy labors long and hard to invent something totally new. Then he goes to the government and he files a patent which says, I want credit for creating this thing. I'm going to be the first person on record to have created this new thing. Now, I totally understand wanting to be the first person on record to create a new thing. That sounds great. Unfortunately, and then he actually puts that invention into the public record so that it's public for anyone to see. All right, so a patent is basically publishing the methodology for creating something. And unfortunately, there are patents for basically everything that we need, and companies here in Silicon Valley are rapidly gathering up as many patents for all kinds of ridiculous things as they can in order to, well, the thing that I wanted to talk about was they say they're getting these patents in order to prevent their competitors from getting them and then using them to shut down their own software and their own products. Now, this is what they call in the Silicon Valley parlance defensive patents. And I've actually experienced this defensive patenting mechanism firsthand. And I think there's a lot of lies that come along with the defensive patent story. So a lot of engineers, a lot of people, creative types, they are opposed to patents because they have wanted to market and sell goods and services that were under patent, and they have been prevented from doing so. And they know of the extreme cost it takes and all the lawyers that have to be involved, and actually having to engage the state, this process of getting a patent. And they see all of the investors and traditional people like down from Palo Alto. They're always saying, if your business is not racking up patents, then you're not building value for the investors and for the company. I'm the first to say that I think it's baloney that you need a government-granted monopoly to provide value to the world. It does make sense that I can see what the Silicon Valley investor type is saying, that if you're not creating a patent, then you aren't creating anything new, anything novel, and you're not worth an amazing investment, right? I mean, we all want to be creating something new, something valuable, Though on the other hand, some of us are just better at creating businesses. So we can take old things that are not new and create better businesses, distribution channels, and marketing out of those things. Unfortunately, with patents, you can't just take an old idea that's been patented and then apply better business practices and better marketing. And so the creative types are the ones, a lot of them are opposed, talking to them around San Francisco, they're opposed to patents at all. However, they are the ones also creating and inventing the new things. And they're being employed by people who are beholden to investors who require patents. So the creative types don't want patents. The bosses want patents to satisfy the investors and to become wealthy. And so what the bosses have invented, well, they've invented this thing called the defensive patent. And ultimately, the defensive patent is a big fat lie that says, well, we're going to patent that cool thing, that novel idea that you invented, but we're not going to use it to prosecute anyone or to gain any type of advantage in the economy, in the market. Why is this a lie? First of all, in the state, under the state that we live in, or that most people here in San Francisco live under, simply having a patent tells the state that you have a legal right of monopoly enforceable by prisons and guns. So you're broadcasting this message to the world. Yes, you're broadcasting, look, we created something novel. But at the same time, you're broadcasting the message of, and don't try to recreate it, because at any moment, we could use the guns and the prisons of the state to shut down your entire business for using this idea. And so that's what patent idea is usually a scam. It is a way of getting inventors and creators to go along with putting their creations under this oppressive regime. Now, why are we talking about patents on Free Talk SF? First of all, I believe last week it came up that the company Coinbase had filed a bunch of patents for online and Bitcoin related widgets and software. Like, I believe one of the patents that they filed was a tip button on the internet. Now, I've heard 100 people come up with the idea of the tip button. So in this case, what the patent for Coinbase really is it's a way for their investors to gain a monopoly on the use of something so that in the future, and who knows who are going to be the investors of Coinbase in the future, or whether they could even sell this patent to someone else, like a patent aggregating service, who buys up a lot of the patents from San Francisco. And they could use it to enforce, use the state to enforce that patent against other people, even though the original patenters never intended it to be that way. And so that's what prompted it. But why this show? This show is about freedom and empathy in particular for all people in San Francisco. Now I want to look at empathy for people who are less fortunate, people who don't have a lot of capital, people who are trying to build businesses and provide value, especially people who could use existing technology to improve the lives of their community and their neighbors. our community, San Francisco, needs a lot more improvement of the lives of our neighbors. But we are legally prevented from doing so using many particular technologies. It doesn't matter if the person who invented the one technology is bad at marketing, they're bad at business, they're bad at customer service. If they're bad at those things, it would be best for our community as a whole and the people that are less fortunate for them to be able to create better, more efficient, more palatable, better customer service, better businesses using the existing technology. There's no reason that we need to grant government monopolies for technology to big companies and to investors. Now, I also want to empathize with the big companies and the investors. A lot of them say, we don't want to do it, but we're going to do it anyway. A lot of them say, well, we need to have patents. If we don't have patents, then we can't guard our business model. Well, I'm pretty confident that Facebook didn't need a patent to grow to billions of users, and YouTube didn't need a patent to become the second largest search engine in the world, worth billions of dollars. These services were valuable because the people running them executed on business and marketing and business plans and customer service and utility. It wasn't because of patents. In Silicon Valley. So I am completely opposed to it, but I want to explore how we might replace granted monopolies backed by guns and on the production of certain goods. Maybe there is a way to maintain the benefit that the original inventors now get without constraining the production of everyone else. I was reading about, I believe in the 1930s, there were a lot of fashion, high-end fashion groups. They made high-end fashion, high-end clothes, and they were being one-for-one replicated by low-end producers using the same exact styles. And because styles and designs, it's very hard, and especially in those times, to patent a style or a design, they actually used a successful embargo against, they organized a community embargo and an embargo of the supply chain and the actual businesses selling the clothes from selling the copycats' clothing. And so they claimed, look, we designed these things, we invented it, we invested all of this money. In order for us to keep doing this, we can't have businesses selling the cheap version of our inventions. And they asked businesses to not do that, and it was successful. They managed to push out the low-end competitors, and people recognized the brands that had actually innovated and paid more for that. I like that a lot. That's a way that we can organize as a community, as a business community, without resorting to threats of violence that underpin all actions of the state. For San Francisco in particular, we could be more independent. We already prevent ICE agents from deporting our community members, regardless of where they came from. A lot of people here don't believe in national borders because national borders aren't a real thing. They don't exist. And that's why ICE agents are not allowed, according to the police of San Francisco, to operate within our borders. Well, within the city, we'll say that. I think the same type of independence principles can be applied under patents. We could explore ways of not enforcing patents, especially for people in San Francisco. And if we really wanted, we could have contracts that explicitly say that this patent does not apply to anyone living in San Francisco or any business in San Francisco. We could make that part of the local, we could make it be part of the local municipality code. The local law could say that patents are strictly invalid within the city of San Francisco. We can be really creative in fighting back with this. We don't have to attempt to remove patents. We can do that right in San Francisco by establishing legal precedent and legal rules freeing all patents for anyone in San Francisco, or claiming that patents in general worldwide are illegal and anti-humanity. That's all we have to do is declare that, and then our police need to stand up for violators of wrongful patent laws. I think it always comes down, in my mind, to changing the local police to not enforce laws. Imagine if the local police forbid the IRS from operating within the city. At some point, we would be victorious against the IRS. If the local police would not conduct raids of cannabis dispensaries, even if they're unlicensed, because it's wrong to do so. So the problem is that the investors want these patents, and they want a monopoly, the profits. They want to take their existing privilege, their existing money, and use it to gain additional privilege and additional money. That's not something that we have to accept. We don't need to continue to grant privilege to people who are already privileged. We can empower the middle class, the lower class, to build independent businesses instead, and empower them with all the most highly technological tools available by eliminating patents. Now, there are traditional objectives, objections, and they're not necessarily legal objections, but practical or often pragmatic economical objections to the removal of patents. And they usually come about when they're talking about drugs, pharmaceutical drugs. A friend of mine is he's a pharmacist, and as a pharmacist, he had to go through all kinds of schooling and training, and he had to jump through a bunch of government hoops to get his pharmacy license. Now that he has his pharmacy license, he is using that license to message to everyone else in the world that he gets a monopoly on pharmacy granted by the state and enforced by guns and prisons. And he, like most other people in the medical industry, claim that drugs could not even have been created without patents. That without a monopoly on the production and distribution of a drug, of a pharmaceutical product, no one would have ever invested enough money to create the product in the first place, because it's against the capitalist structure. Capitalists, they say, need to be able to have guaranteed profits in order to even undertake a venture. It saddens me. It saddens me to hear these people say this, because they have a really, first of all, they have a very low view of humanity. And secondly, they're really just being shills for the corporate owners that pay them. And they are, I understand, I can empathize. Like it takes a long time and it's a lot of work to get a license that's a legal monopoly. But if there are consenting parties that want to undergo pharmacy without a license, it's wrong to prevent them from doing so. But what I was saying is they have a low view of humanity and probably haven't studied much history either. Now, honestly, I don't care if the capitalists have a guaranteed profit into the future. The guy who invented the polio vaccine didn't do it for profit. He didn't do it because he was beholden to a large body of corporate investors. He tested the vaccine on his own body, on himself. He invented all kinds of stuff in the name of science, in the name of health for people. He was trying to help people. Now, the people in the medical industry, they're always saying, like, they always have this high ground, moral high ground. Well, we're helping everyone. We're doing all this. But they think that they wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be trying to help people if there wasn't a guaranteed profit. I think that's a very low view of themselves, a low view of their colleagues, and of people in general. Ultimately, the only way we're going to build a free and independent, empathetic society is for people to want to help others. It doesn't matter if there are legal monopolies or guaranteed profits or not. People have to want to help each other and build a community that takes us into the stars, that will last for millennia, to build a prosperous society where everyone is wealthy. The only way we're going to achieve that is by changing people's attitudes toward each other. It has nothing to do with guaranteed profits. It has everything to do with goodwill toward women and men and children everywhere. We can start in San Francisco. Thank you for tuning in to this show today. As always, live freely. Be a free individual. Be independent. Disregard patents. Disregard state-granted violent monopolies. And remember, this show is covered by the BIPCOT No-Gov license, free for anyone to use except government agents. Government agents, if you heard this, please undo it and report yourself to the local authorities for violating the license. This is a free market license, not a government enforced. So the market will Well, you will be shamed if you watch the show. Empathize with others around you. What are they feeling? What do you think they are thinking? What motivates them? Talk to people that you don't know. Be a force for good in your community. As always, dance like no one's watching and encrypt like everyone's watching. Encrypt. My name is Steven Zeiler for Free Talk SF, freetalksf.com, for a whole archive of shows. Thank you and have a wonderful day.